The fluorescent lights of the Seoul Surrogacy Center buzz overhead, casting a sterile glow over the waiting room. Jungkook sat on the edge of a stiff leather chair, his fingers fidgeting with the frayed hem of his oversized sweater. His doe-like eyes darted nervously to the clock on the wall. 10 minutes late. His appointment with the agency coordinator was supposed to start at 2 p.m., but the receptionist had only offered a tight-lipped smile and a vague, "They'll be with you soon." Jungkook's stomach churned, not just from the wait but from the weight of why he was here. His mother's hospital bills were piling up, and his younger brother, Junghyun, needed school supplies they couldn't afford. The surrogacy program had seemed like a lifeline, a way to pull his family out of the financial hole that threatened to swallow them. He'd spent weeks agonizing over the decision, but the agency's promise of a generous payout had sealed it. He could do this. He had to do this. Mr. Jian. A sharp voice snapped him out of his thoughts. A woman in a crisp blazer stood at the door, her clipboard clutched like a shield. "This way, please." Jungkook scrambled to his feet, smoothing down his sweater as if it could hide his nerves. He followed her down a sleek hallway lined with frosted glass doors, each one emblazoned with the agency's logo. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and expensive perfume, a stark contrast to the cramped apartment he called home. The coordinator, who introduced herself as Miss Park, ushered him into a small office and gestured for him to sit. "We apologize for the delay," she said, her tone clipped. "There's been an unexpected development." Jungkook's heart sank. "Is something wrong with my application?" His voice came out softer than he intended, betraying the anxiety clawing at his chest. Miss Park hesitated, her eyes flickering to the computer screen. "Not exactly. There was a mix-up with the client assignments. You've been matched with someone, well, someone we didn't initially intend for you." Jungkook blinked, confused. "But I thought the process was anonymous. I just provide the service, and the client pays, right?" "Yes, typically," Miss Park said, adjusting her glasses. "But this client is particular. He's requested a meeting with you before proceeding. It's highly irregular, but given the circumstances, we couldn't refuse." Jungkook's brows furrowed. "Who's the client?" Before Ms. Park could answer, the door swung open with a force that made the hinges creak. A man strode in, his presence filling the room like a storm rolling in off the sea. He was tall, with sharp cheekbones and dark hair swept back from a face that couldn't have been carved from marble. His tailored black suit screamed wealth, and the way he carried himself, shoulders squared, eyes cold, screamed power. Jungkook's breath caught in his throat. "Kim Taehyung," Miss Park said quickly, standing to greet him. "Thank you for coming on short notice." Taehyung didn't acknowledge her. His gaze locked onto Jungkook, who felt pinned to his chair like a butterfly under glass. Those eyes, deep, piercing, and utterly unreadable, scanned him from head to toe, lingering on his worn sneakers and the nervous way he clutched his hands in his lap. "This is him." Taehyung's voice was low, almost a growl, laced with disbelief. "This is the surrogate you chose." Jungkook's cheeks burned. He wasn't sure whether to be offended or intimidated, but the way Taehyung said this made him feel like a defective product on a store shelf. Ms. Park cleared her throat. "There was an error in the system, Mr. Kim. Mr. Jian was mistakenly assigned to your profile, but I assure you, he's fully vetted and..." "An error?" Taehyung cut her off, his tone sharp enough to slice through steel. He turned to Jungkook, his expression unyielding. "Do you even know who I am?" Jungkook swallowed hard, his throat dry. "No, sir." I signed up to help my family. I didn't choose anyone. Taehyung's lips twitched, not quite a smirk but close. Help your family, he repeated, as if the words were foreign to him. He stepped closer, and Jungkook instinctively leaned back, though there was nowhere to go. You think you're capable of carrying my legacy? A kid who looks like he hasn't slept in a week. Jungkook's embarrassment flared into something sharper, defiance. I'm not a kid, he said, his voice steadier now. I'm 24, and I passed every test your agency threw at me. If you don't want me, that's fine. But don't act like I'm the one who messed this up. The room went silent. Ms. Park's eyes widened, and even Taehyung seemed momentarily taken aback, his brows lifting slightly. Jungkook's heart pounded so loudly he was sure everyone could hear it, but he held Taehyung's gaze, refusing to look away. Taehyung tilted his head, studying him like a predator sizing up prey. Bold, he murmured, almost to himself. Maybe you're not as fragile as you look. Park jumped in, her voice overly bright. Mr. Kim. We can reassign Mr. Jian and find a more suitable candidate if you... No, Taehyung's word was final, cutting through her sentence like a guillotine. He didn't break eye contact with Jungkook. I'll meet with him again. Tomorrow 9 a.m. sharp. If he's late, we're done. Jungkook opened his mouth to protest. He had a shift at the cafe tomorrow morning, but Taehyung was already turning away, his long strides carrying him out the door before anyone could respond. The air felt lighter the moment he was gone, but Jungkook's chest was still tight, his mind reeling. I'm so sorry, Miss Park said, her professionalism cracking. Mr. Kim is intense. He's one of our most high-profile clients. CEO of Kim Enterprises, worth billions. He's very particular about his air. Jungkook nodded numbly, still processing the encounter. So, what happens now? You meet him tomorrow, Miss Park said, handing him a sleek black card with Taehyung's contact information. If he approves, the contract moves forward. If not, we'll find you another match. Jungkook stared at the card, the weight of it heavier than it should have been. He didn't know whether to feel relieved or terrified. Kim Taehyung was unlike anyone he'd ever met, cold, commanding, and dangerously magnetic. And yet, there was something in the way Taehyung had looked at him, a flicker of curiosity beneath the eyes, that made Jungkook's pulse race for reasons he couldn't quite name. As he left the agency and stepped into the chilly Seoul evening, Jungkook clutched the card tightly. Tomorrow, he'd face the ruthless billionaire again. And somehow, he knew nothing would ever be the same. The morning sun barely pierced the thick grey clouds hanging over Seoul, casting a muted glow through the cafe's fogged-up windows. Jungkook stood behind the counter, his hands trembling as he fumbled with a coffee order. The clock above the espresso machine read 8:45 a.m. He had exactly 15 minutes to finish his shift, change out of his flour-dusted apron, and make it to Kim Taehyung's office across the city. The thought alone made his stomach twist. Jungkook, you okay? His co-worker, Ho-seok, nudged him with a playful grin, wiping down the counter. You've been zoned out all morning. Spill, what's got you so jumpy? Jungkook forced a smile, his cheeks flushed. Just a big meeting. I might have gotten in over my head. Ho-seok raised an eyebrow, but before he could pry, the bell above the door chimed, and a rush of customers flooded in. Jungkook threw himself into the chaos, grateful for the distraction. But every tick of the clock felt like a countdown to facing him again, Kim Taehyung. The billionaire whose cold stare had haunted Jungkook's dreams all night at 8:55, Jungkook bolted out of the cafe, his backpack slung over one shoulder and his heart pounding. He'd swapped his apron for a slightly less worn sweater, but he still felt out of place as he approached the towering glass skyscraper that housed Kim Enterprises. The building loomed like a monolith, its sleek lines and reflective surface screaming wealth and power. Jungkook felt smaller than ever as he stepped into the marble-floored lobby, clutching Taehyung's black card like a lifeline. The receptionist, a woman with a smile as polished as the floor, directed him to the top floor. The elevator ride felt endless, each ding of the floors climbing higher, twisting the knot in Jungkook's chest. When the doors slid open, he stepped into a world of glass walls and minimalist luxury. A young man in a suit, probably an assistant, greeted him with a curt nod and led him to a massive office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Taehyung was already there, standing by the window with his back to the door. He wore another impeccable tailored suit, this one charcoal gray, and the way he stood, hands in his pockets, shoulders broad, radiated control. Jungkook hesitated in the doorway, unsure if he should speak or wait. "You're late," Taehyung said without turning around, his voice low and edgy with irritation. Jungkook glanced at his phone. 9:01 a.m. His heart sank. "I'm sorry, I had work, and the bus was." "Excuses don't interest me." Taehyung turned, his dark eyes locking onto Jungkook's with an intensity that made the room feel smaller. "Sit." Jungkook obeyed, sinking into a leather chair that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Taehyung remained standing, his gaze sweeping over Jungkook like he was assessing every flaw. "Why are you here, Jungkook?" The question caught him off guard. I told you yesterday. To help my family. The surrogacy money." "No." Taehyung's voice was sharp, cutting him off. He stepped closer, leaning against the edge of his desk, arms crossed. "Why you? You're young, barely scraping by, and you look like a strong wind could knock you over. Why put yourself through this?" Jungkook's fingers tightened around the straps of his backpack. He wanted to snap back, to tell Taehyung he wasn't weak, but the weight of the billionaire's stare made his words falter. "Because I don't have a choice," he said quietly, his eyes dropping to the floor. "My mom's sick. My brother's still in school. I'm all they have. If I don't do this, we lose everything." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the city below. Jungkook risked a glance up, expecting judgment or dismissal. Instead, Taehyung's expression was unreadable, his jaw tight as if wrestling with something unspoken. "You understand what this entails?" Taehyung asked, his tone softer but no less commanding. "Carrying my child. My heir. This isn't just a paycheck. It's a commitment. My family's legacy is at stake." Jungkook nodded, though his throat felt dry. "I read the contract. I know what I'm signing up for. Do you?" Taehyung's voice dropped, almost to whisper, as he leaned forward, his hands braced on the desk. "You'll be tied to me, Jin. My name, my world. People will talk. They'll dig into your life, your past. Are you ready for that?" Jungkook's breath hitched. The way Taehyung said "tied to me" sent an unexpected shiver down his spine, equal parts fear and something he couldn't name. "I can handle it," he said, forcing confidence into his voice. "I'm not as fragile as you think." Taehyung's lips curved into a faint, almost mocking smile. "We'll see about that." He straightened, pulling a folder from his desk and sliding it toward Jungkook. "This is the revised contract. Read it. Sign it. And don't waste my time again. Jungkook took the folder, his fingers brushing against the cool paper. He opened it, scanning the dense legal text, but his mind was elsewhere, on Taehyung's piercing gaze, on the way his presence seemed to fill every corner of the room. He felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, one wrong step away from falling. "Why me?" Jungkook blurted out, surprising himself. He looked up, meeting Taehyung's eyes. "If you're so unhappy about the mix-up, why not pick someone else? You could have anyone." Taehyung's expression flickered, a crack in his otherwise impenetrable facade. For a moment, Jungkook thought he saw something, curiosity, maybe even intrigue. "Because," Taehyung said slowly, "you're not what I expected. And I don't like surprises, but I'm willing to see how this one plays out." Jungkook's heart pounded, his mind racing to process the words. Before he could respond, Taehyung's assistant reappeared, murmuring something about an urgent call. Taehyung dismissed Jungkook with a curt nod. "Tomorrow, 8 a.m. my driver will pick you up. Don't be late again." As Jungkook rode the elevator back down, the contract heavy in his hands, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just stepped into something far bigger than himself. Kim Taehyung was a storm, and Jungkook was already caught in its pull. Whether he'd survive it, or if he even wanted to, was another question entirely.